So the quiz number 12, okay, we're going to be reviewing stuff for quiz number 12 right now, okay? And I was just mentioning, Jose, about the earplugs. Make sure you guys remove them. Very first things they're going to have you do is factoring the common factors. So there's going to be a couple questions like this, okay? So there might be something like this. Factor out the common factor. All right, so part A, it could be as simple as something like this, or it might look a little bit more complicated. Like that. So right now we're going to work on both of them, okay? So just finding the common factor, what that usually means is the GCF. Okay, what number can you take out? What letter can you take out? Okay, so what number can you take out? What letter can you take out? So for part A, if you look at it, we have a 4n squared plus a 3n. Okay, what do I have in common here? What do I have in common? The n, right? So I'm going to take an n out. And I'm going to put a parenthesis there. And what I need to do is just say, okay, if I take away an n from 4n squared, if I take away an n from 4n squared, what's left? 4n, all right? So we're going to have 4n. Plus, if I take away an n from 3n, what do I get? Just a 3. And then you're done, okay? So that's it. That's all you need to do for problems like this. Now, for part B, it's the same thing. They just give you an extra term. So it's not like it's a whole lot harder. It's just you're dealing with one more term. But what do those have in common? So first off, for part B, do they have a number in common? A 3. Do they have a letter in common? Yeah, they all have an n. So we're going to take out a 3n. And we'll put a parenthesis here. Okay? And with that 3n being out, if I take out a 3n from 6n cubed, what's left over? Careful with the 3. Not a 3, a 2, right? But I see what you're doing. You took half of it away, right? It would be a 2n squared plus, what happens to the 3n squared? Just n. And then what happens to the 9n? A 3. All right. So, kind of getting warmed up here with some questioning. I'm going to be asking some of you guys like I did last time, right? Just by calling you out in a bit. But just make sure you're kind of seeing what we're doing here, okay? But I'll ask you some questions just to kind of get a little bit more feedback from you guys. So that's going to be 3 different types of questions like this, okay? 2 of them like A, 1 of them like B, okay? So that's question numbers 1, 2, and 3 on the test. Now, questions 4, 5, and 6, 7, let me see, all the way up to 9. So 4 to 9, they're going to ask you to factor using trinomial factors, okay? Trinomial factors meaning like the x method, okay? So let me give you problems like this. So factor each completely. All right, so in this case, let's see. Trying to think of something here. We can use, let's use x for now. X squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay, so this would be what you can consider like an easier type of trinomial. Okay, so x squared minus 5x plus 6. So since you're given three terms, you're going to have to use an X method for this, okay? Remember your ABCs, here's your A term, here's your B term, here's your C term, okay? You're going to want to factor it using an X, okay? So, on the very top, you multiply your A times C. So 1 times 6, that goes up here. You multiply, okay? Remember I told you how I was helping my daughter with this stuff yesterday night. I noticed that she writes this. I don't know if you guys want to write that, but she puts a times and a plus to remind her that I gotta multiply to 6 and add to whatever's on the bottom. I don't know if you guys are interested in doing that, but I just saw her do that. I thought that was kind of interesting. But on the bottom, I'm going to put my minus 5. Okay? So two numbers that multiply to 6 that add to negative 5. Okay? So think about that. Two numbers that multiply to 6 that add to negative 5. Any ideas?
Negative 3,
All right, negative 3, negative 2. Good. Do I have to divide by anything on those numbers? No, why not? Say a little louder. What does he say? Oh, well, no, they are already factored, but why don't I have to divide at the very end?
X squared is 1.
Yeah, the A term is 1, right? If the A term is 1, I don't need to divide, right? I don't need to divide. So this one is good. That means these answers are exactly what I want to put into my problem. So here we go. Here's my answer. X minus 3, X minus 2. That's my solution to this problem. Okay? So we're factoring these trinomials, and this is, like I said, this is considered an easier problem because they don't have anything in common that I can factor out right away. They don't have an A term other than a 1. So it's a very straightforward problem. Okay? Alright, so I just paused that really quick just so I can make sure a problem will work out. But here we go. 2m squared plus 5m minus 3. That's my next one. So we're going to go to medium difficulty right now. Okay, medium difficulty. So we did easy. Well, I guess you could say as easy as they get. I don't want to say they're easy as in everybody should be able to do them. I know we all struggle on different levels, but that's as easy as you can kind of make it. That's part A. B is a little bit more on the medium difficulty now because of the fact that I do have an A term that's not a 1. Okay? So we're going to go and do the X method again. Our A, B, and C are right there. Okay? So what do I put on top of that X? Anybody know? What do I put on top? A negative 6, right? And the reason why we get a negative 6 is because we multiply A times C. Okay, A times C is a negative 6. So thank you for that. What do I put on the bottom? A 5, right? Your B value goes on the bottom. Okay? Remember, I gave you guys the notes for this. It just looks a little weird, but in section 4.4, I mean, I guess this would be for not 1. I know it looks really weird, but you can see the top is A times C, the bottom is B, right? So that's in section 4.4. You guys can always go back and look. So that's how you get the negative 6 and the 5. Now, can someone give me two numbers that multiply to negative 6 that add to 5? 3 and negative 2. So both negative? All right, we're getting some options. Now check this out, guys. 3 and negative 2. Those multiply to negative 6, right? But what do they add up to? 3 and negative 2. 1. Right? They don't add up to 5. What about negative 6 and 6 and negative 1? Well, that multiplies to negative 6. What does it add up to? A 5. That's actually my option that I want, right? A positive 6, a negative 1. So it's not that negative 3 and 2 don't work in multiplying it. It just doesn't work when you add them together, right? This one works for both. Now, am I done? No, what do I have to do? All right, divide by a, right? My 2, right? So let's divide by 2. Divide by 2. Notice the right side, negative half, is just negative half. There's nothing I can do with it. But the left side becomes a positive 3. Okay? So here's my answer. So I get m plus 3, m minus half. Do I leave my answer like that? No, what do I have to move? What has to be fixed? Well, the 1/2, right? So the 2, you said a 2. What do I do with the 2? Move it to the front of the m, right? This goes right there. Okay, that 2 goes to the front. So m plus 3, 2m minus 1. And that's the answer they're going to want from you guys when you're doing these things. Okay? By the way, guys, I want to remind you guys, tomorrow is your quiz day, but it's also your homework turn-in day. Usually that doesn't happen, but because I'm not going to be here tomorrow, it's going to happen that way. So make sure that you're doing your homework. You get it completed by tomorrow. It's only 2 sections. And obviously you have your quiz as well. Okay? Any questions on part A or B? Anybody have any concerns, or you're just not sure about, how things work out, stuff like that? So we're going to do one that's a little bit more on the, I guess you could say, on the harder side with these. So we've done easy, we've done medium. So let's look at one that would be considered difficult. So 6, I guess we can do e. 6e squared plus 9e minus 60. So we would say this would be like a difficult problem. The reason why we call this difficult is because of what? Why would they say this is harder? Well, the 60, yeah, it's a huge number, right? So it would be nice if I can make that number smaller. How can I make that number smaller? I can factor out a 3, right? Notice the 6, the 9, and the 60, they all have a 3 in common. So let's take a 3 out. That makes it 2e squared plus 3e minus 30. I'm sorry, not 30, 20. I did the same thing that happened earlier. I cut the 60 in half because I knew I was dividing by 3. I don't know why, but yeah. So we're good, right? We made the problem a little bit easier. All I have to do is worry about this part right here. So let's do the x method on that. Yes, the numbers still come out kind of big, but we can kind of work through it. So on the top, I multiply my a times c. That's 2 times negative 20. That's negative 40. And on the bottom, a 3. So this is the hard part. What two numbers multiply to negative 40 but add up to 3? All right, positive 8 and a negative 5. All right, and that does actually work nicely. Okay, because a positive 8 times a negative 5 is a negative 40, and 8 minus 5 is 3. So we're good. Now remember, I'm going to highlight this 3. Don't forget about this 3 right here, okay? It's still part of my answer. But Am I done with that 8 and negative 5? What do I have to do? Divide by 2. Okay, why 2? Because there's a 2 right here. It's not a 1. So we're going to divide by 2. This is going to stay negative 5 halves, okay? Nothing happens to that one. It doesn't divide nicely. But this becomes a positive 4. So, let's write our answer. 3 times e plus 4, e minus 5 halves. And just like what we did last time, what do I do with that denominator of 2? Yeah, move it to the front, right? You go from the bottom up to the top. So 3e plus 4, 2e minus 5. And that's going to be your answer for this problem. Now, there's just 2 more problems. Now, just so you guys know, let me write this down here. For questions number 1, there's going to be 2 of these, 1 of these. Okay, so that's 3 problems so far. For question 2, A, B, and C, there's going to be a total of, let me see, these are all mixed up, but let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's going to be 6. Okay. There's only going to be 1 of the really hard type, but the easy to medium, there'll be 5 of those, like combinations of those. Okay. Usually there's like 3 easier, 2 medium, 1 hard. Okay. So there'll be 6 of those. All right. So that's that. Now, question number 3. Yeah. Factor completely. These are what a lot of my students call the easy ones. I don't. They like them because it only requires 2 terms and there's a formula for it. So they do give you 2 easy ones, 1 medium difficulty for these. So let me show you what they look like. Let me see. This is what they look like. There's an easier one, that's A, and the harder one, that's B. Okay? Anybody remember what the names of these are when they want you to factor 2 terms? And there's a subtraction in there or a difference. That was a hint. A difference. Nobody remembers the name of them? So these are called difference of 2 squares. Okay, difference of 2 squares. Okay, and the hint to these, or I guess the trick to these, is if you have an a squared minus b squared, you get to a plus b. But remember, we're supposed to get to that point, right? We got to figure out what is my a term, what is my b term. So the way I taught you guys to do this was like this. Something squared minus something squared. Okay? And you're supposed to ask yourself the following question. For the first parenthesis on the left, what squared is x squared? That's usually the easier one. What squared gives you x squared? X, right? So there you go. That one's not supposed to be hard. The next one might be a little tough. What squared is 16? 4. Once you have those 2 numbers in the parentheses, guys, you automatically write x minus whatever the number is. Okay, and x plus whatever that number is, and you're done. That's it. Okay? Difference of 2 squares. Notice the reason why it's called the difference of 2 squares. That's a difference, right? The minus sign in the middle. And notice in the parentheses, it's something squared for both of them, right? So it's called a difference of 2 squares because the parentheses are the 2 squares, and then inside there's a minus, which is called a difference. So the reason why B is considered difficult is because, is there a number squared that gives you a 24? And think about it. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, but there's no number that gives me a 24 when I square it, right? So what you're going to have to do is what? What should I do with this? Do you see anything in common? A 3, right? They have a 3 in common, right? So let's take it out first. 3, you'll have y squared minus, oops, I probably should have not used a 24. I probably should have used a 27. Hold on, guys. Do me a favor. Instead of 24, write 27. I'm sorry about that. But if I factor a 3 from 24, I get 8. And there's no square number for 8. But there is one for 27. Because this would be a 9. Sorry about that. Like I said, these are harder to just think up sometimes because you got to make sure they work out. So if it was a 27, I factor out a 3, I end up with the 9. Now I'm just going to look at this piece right here. Don't forget about the 3 because the 3 is still part of the answer. Okay, but the y squared minus 9, I have to factor it. So I'm going to do those two parentheses, right? Something squared minus something squared. So what squared gives me a y squared? A y, right? What squared gives me a 9? A 3, thank you. So this will be y minus 3, y plus 3. And then don't forget about that 3 in the front. And this would be your final answer for that problem. This one is considered the difficult one because you did have to find the GCF first. Remember, whenever you're doing these problems and you have to factor, if they look like they're going to be a little bit tougher than you like, maybe factor out a number first. It might make things easier to see. Okay, so there's going to be 3 of these. Okay, there'll be 2 of these easier ones and only 1 of these harder ones. Okay, so one more set of examples for you guys, or just one more example. And it's the grouping one. But before I go into that, any questions on A or B? Anything that doesn't make sense? I mean, I'm hoping this stuff is coming back to you. I know for some of you guys, you're not having a hard time with it. I see you guys do the homework and you go right through it immediately. And I don't mean at home. Like, I'll see you do it in here and you're just going through, writing the workout, putting the answers and moving on. So I can tell some of you guys remember how to do this very well. If you struggled before, then, you know, as usual, ask for help. You know, practice the homework. Make sure you ask me if you need any help with that stuff. So factor each completely. So this next example is the one that a lot of people think is like, I'm not even going to put an A there. That these are the really hard ones because they see 4 terms, quadrinomials, right? But this is called by grouping, okay? So you can see all of this stuff in the notes and in the videos. But we're going to factor by grouping. Okay? So, let's see. We'll try something like this. R cubed, I'm sorry. We need a power of 3. Plus r squared minus 3r minus 9. Let's try something like that. So again, people will think, oh man, these are really hard to do. There's 4 terms. The ones with 2 terms are not so bad. The one with 3 terms get a little harder. So the ones with 4 terms have to be the worst, right? But in reality, they're not so bad. You just gotta kind of section them out. So if you look at the steps for this, I just want to remind you guys, this is in section 4.5. Notice these are the steps that you guys are supposed to take, right? So this should already be in your notes. But you're going to apply parentheses around the first 2 terms and last 2 terms. Be mindful of the negative in the middle. You're going to have to switch a sign. Factor out the GCF once you do that, and then factor out what we call the common factor, right? The the parenthesis part that should be matching. So I'll show you that. So first step, parentheses around. So this is going to be r cubed plus r squared minus 3r plus 9. I want to remind you guys that plus, right? It changes signs because of that negative on the middle. So now you say, okay, look at the first parenthesis. What do they have in common? You might have to speak up a little louder because the AC just kicked in. An r what? R squared. Good. So r squared goes out. R squared, and inside I'm going to have a what? What's inside? R plus 1. Thank you. So r plus 1 minus, look at the next parenthesis. What do they have in common? A 3. So let's put a 3 out. And do I end up with an r plus 1 if I take that out? An r plus 3. Okay? Oh, I just saw something here. So, if I get something like this, there's one of two options could occur. Either I did something wrong, because remember, you guys are supposed to have matching pieces, right? This is supposed to match this. That's how you know you did something right. Okay, if not, we did something wrong. But if you look at my work, did I do something wrong in factoring or anything like that? Did I like take out a 3 and I divided wrong or anything like that? Does everything look good? Yeah, so if I don't get matching pieces, then you're just going to say not factorable. Now what I can do for us is I can make this factorable. Okay. So this is one that fails because my factors don't match up, and I didn't make any mistakes. This is correct. Now let me show you one where this thing actually works. It's going to look almost identical. I'm just going to add a different number here. Factor each completely. This will be our last one. And it's r cubed. Now let me put a 3r squared there. So it almost looks the same. The only difference is instead of an r squared, I put a 3r squared. So we just change it just a little bit. And we'll do this one, and then this one will work. Okay. So let's put these into parentheses. So I'm going to do that really quick. Kind of like what we did the last time. Again, I'm going to highlight that plus sign right in the middle of the second parenthesis because that one has to change, okay? The minus sign in the middle makes it change. Now, just like last time, we said we had an r squared in common, right? So let me take that out. So that's going to be an r plus 3 minus. And just like last time, we're going to have a 3 in common. So we'll take out a 3. And this will be r plus 3. Is this one going to be factorable? Yes, because my parentheses in green, they match. Okay, these match. If this matches with that, then I can do that step that we call the common factor, step 3, right? In the 3 steps you need to do. So, r plus 3 is one of my factors. What's my last factor here? R squared minus 3. Yeah, so there it is. It's whatever's left over, right? So it's this stuff here and that right there. That's what becomes your next factor. So this is what you guys have for your quiz.